Hi, my name is Michael Schmetz, and I'm going to do a demonstration of turning a bowl on a pole lathe. The first question is, where do we find the wood to work with? Well, let's look out back. Great, well this looks like a wonderful candidate. I'm just going to saw off a chunk that's about as long as it is wide. I'll give it a little extra because it's easy to be short. And I'm going to use a handsaw here. Wouldn't normally use a handsaw, but it seemed much more peaceful this early in the morning. We'll see how it goes. Oh, that was a lot of work. Usually I use a chainsaw. Great. So now we have our round, which we need to turn into a bowl blank. This is the very center of the tree. We want to avoid that part. So we're going to split this in half. Around there. And that's going to both remove the pith, but it's also going to kind of center the middle of the tree, which is going to be good so the bowl will warp in a more aesthetic fashion. I might actually split this a little farther back so I don't have quite as big of a bowl. So to split this I'm going to use a froe, and then I'm going to whack it with a big mallet. So here we go. The nice thing about alder is it splits very, very easily. We've got a nice split right there. Great, so now I don't want this piece. It's the side I'm not going to use for now. We want to use this one, and I need to draw a circle on it so I can shape it a bit before I mount it on the lathe. So I have this little plywood disc that'll help me use as a template. Sharpie will be nice and visible. And now with my hatchet, I'm going to rough this out until it's closer to the circle. Alright, that's not perfect, but I think it'll do. The goal here is just to make the turning in the lathe a little bit quicker. Okay, so the next step, I drilled a hole in the middle of my bowl blank, and I'm going to attach this mandrel to it. This is what a cord's going to wrap around, and it's going to be used to drive the bowl on the lathe. So I'm going to stick this in my hole and just tap it in there. And it's hissing because it's pushing moisture out. That's kind of cool. And there you go. We're ready to mount on the lathe. Great. So from here on out, the rest will be at the lathe. First, I need to put my poppets in. Here's my first poppet, or my tailstock. This is going to be my tool rest. And then here's my other poppet, or the headstock. Unfortunately, this thing warps throughout the year. Sometimes it's a little hard to fit things in. So I'm going to secure these with some wedges. That one's not going to move, so I'll make it nice and tight. And then I'm going to wrap the drive cord around my bowl blank. and get it on here. But first I need to make a nice little measurement where it's going to be true. Because if I start out with this very untrue, it's going to be a lot more work. Well, great. It's turning into a beautiful day. I got my drive cord wrapped around my bowl and hooked up to my treadle, so now I got some power. The bowl's looking reasonable for the roughing out. So when I push down, it will spin towards me and I can cut, and when I let go, it'll spin away from me, and I don't cut when it's spinning away. So I have my hook tools over here. Some of these I purchased, some of these I forged. And the first step is going to be to rough out this outside so it runs nice and true. So at first when I use this, it's going to be a little rough. And I'm not going to hit much most of the time, but after a while I will start getting some true sections and I'll be getting some really nice cuts. Now we have a roughly shaped bowl. We have a nice pile of shavings, and the next step is to flip the bowl around. There's our butter. Some more butter on there. Now we can start turning from the other side. Once again, the first step is to start truing this up. You can see how I'm cutting here, but I'm not cutting yet over here. So we're almost down. I'm going to make this nice and thin, and I can snap it off the lathe. There we go. Great, so I cleared some space. I almost have my bowl. Next step is we just need to use a chisel and snap off most of this waste. And then clean up the inside with a hook knife. Here's a mostly finished bowl.